What the heck is a domain expansion? JJK is one of the hottest new enemies out there that utilizes a new power system called cursed energy, and this cursed energy used to manipulate techniques and domain expansions. Let me explain. Domain expansion is the ultimate technique of any Jujutsu user. It is achieved by expanding one's innate domain with cursed energy while using a barrier to construct it inside a separate space. The caster then imbues their cursed technique within the barrier to complete the expansion, allowing them to deploy their ability all throughout the domain. Okay, now following? Let me make it a little simpler. Imagine you and whomever are getting into a fight, right? You guys are going back and forth, it's pretty balanced, and they pull out a weapon to try to gain the advantage. But they don't know you got something crazy in your back pocket. You reach in your back pocket and bam, you throw a house at them. Now your enemy is stuck in your house where you have home field advantage. You know where all the good stuff and weapons are hidden. You can freely adjust the interior to your liking. You could literally put a rug out from under their feet and drop them in the basement if you wanted. This is a very crude example of how a domain works, but I just want you to get a picture of what we're working with, especially if you're new to the anime. In order to activate a domain, a specific hand sign or gesture is required from the user. Now when it comes to domains, there are different types. There are either lethal or non-lethal domains. You see, domains that are expanded to be lethal are constructed within a barrier imbued with the cursed user's technique. The caster's abilities are amplified, and any cursed techniques deployed within the domain are guaranteed to hit their target. This sure hit factor is derived from the barrier's embedded technique, which is what makes the type of domain considered lethal. These can't miss attacks can't be stopped. However, not all hits are necessarily lethal. As we stated initially, these domain expansions are only for supreme sorcerers, so lethal domain expansions require an immense amount of skill and cursed energy to construct. Not only do they require the user to manifest a massive artificial environment, but they must also be able to erect their own barrier and infuse it with their cursed technique in a timely fashion. Because remember, while you're making your hand signals or whatnot, people are watching you. Your enemy is watching you. And if they can close the gap before you can build your barrier, you mean? Now, due to the overall difficulty of casting lethal domain, the ability to expand a lethal domain is extremely rare, and even most grade 1 sorcerers are never able to master it. Unfortunately, this includes our boy Nanami. Now there are also non-lethal domains. You see, in the past, domain expansion was a more common technique because domains weren't constructed to be fatal. They only forced targets inside to obey the rules of the embedded curse technique. You see, Hiromi's deadly sentencing, with Judge Man, is an example of an old style non-lethal domain that forces the opponent into a trial. It'd be kind of crazy, right? If someone's like, yo, I got a domain for you. Imagine you get into an argument with your significant other. You try to leave the house and then they'd be like, domain expansion, we need to talk. And then you gotta obey the rules and listen to stuff. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Now there are also incomplete domains. You see, innate domains that are expanded with only cursed energy without an embedded curse technique are incomplete, even if they do include a barrier. In most cases, the same applies to domains without a fully enclosed barrier. You see, closing the barrier fully integrates the embedded technique into the domain and enables it to have a sure hit effect. You see, without that, the caster will only receive an improved curse technique without a can't miss attack. This is what happened with Megami's Chimera Shadow Garden. If we're comparing domains to other animes, this is essentially the Bankai equivalent or a forbidden jutsu from Naruto and whatnot. With power comes great responsibility, or the greater the reward, the greater the risk. Domain expansion provides a great advantage at the cost of an immense amount of cursed energy, which is why most users can only use one domain per day, some even one domain per week. When it comes to domains, how do you counter them? Well, you see, the can't miss attack can sometimes be countered with cursed energy reinforcement. But this is an impractical method. The only true defense against a can't miss attack for those who can't expand their own domains are anti-domain techniques, such as the simple domain. Domains are nearly impossible to escape from the inside. You see, the cubic volume of the space appears completely different on the inside, making finding the boundary's location difficult for anyone trapped inside. Anyone searching for the edge of the domain is likely to be killed by his can't miss attack, and the barrier is reinforced from the inside, even if they did find it. However, the more the barrier is reinforced from the inside, the more vulnerable it is on the outside. So if you had a friend or an ally on the outside, they could possibly break in and rescue you from the domain. Even if the barrier or the environment aren't fully formed, casting domain expansion will cause the user's innate technique to become unstable for a short time afterwards. AKA, if you don't finish them off with your domain and your domain collapses, you are incredibly vulnerable, weak, and susceptible to JJK does not play around. You see, the best countermeasure against an opposing domain is to expand one's own domain. This will engage both combatants in a clash of domains where the more refined domain will conquer it. The time it takes for one domain to dominate in a clash varies drastically on refinement. For example, We saw that Satoru Gojo was able to overwhelm Jogo's domain within mere seconds, whereas Megumi was able to fight, kinda sorta, with Dagon for quite some time. Now, in the case of overlapping domains, sure hit effects cancel out each other. When two domains are completely even and the users fight with the domains open, the moment one combatant takes heavy damage or the domain collapses, the others can't miss attack will immediately strike. Lastly, domain clashes don't always have to result in one domain conquering the other. Using domain expansion against a more refined domain could create a hole in the barrier for them to escape from as well, which was initially Megumi's attempt during his fight against Dagon. However, his pops made a surprise appearance, so yeah, there you have it. Domains explained. If you have questions or concerns, feel free to drop them in the comments, and if you learned something, I'd appreciate if you like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.